My name is Dr. Lawrence Wongo. I was born in Juba, Southern Sudan in 1952 at the dawn of independence. Sudan, the largest country in Africa, was ruled jointly by Britain and Egypt from 1898 until 1956. Throughout most of this time, Northern and Southern Sudan were administered as separate regions. 70% of Sudan's population lives in Northern Sudan and is made up predominantly of Arab Muslims. The remaining 30% of the population inhabits Southern Sudan. These people are predominantly black Africans who are either Christians or practice traditional African religions. The root cause of the conflict is the political and economic marginalization of the people of Southern Sudan. First, by the British and Egyptian colonialists, followed by successive Arab-run governments in the north. In 1953, when arrangements were being made for Sudan to become independent, the Southern Sudanese were not consulted and were excluded from any meaningful participation in the new government. After independence, in 1956, the new regime in the north immediately began dominating the south by exploiting its resources and adopting policies designed to impose the Islamic religion, language, and culture on the people of Southern Sudan. The Southern Sudanese, of course, resented this and took up arms to resist the North's attempts to exploit and Islamize them. The armed conflict continued until 1972, when a peace agreement was reached. The peace period lasted for 10 years, and it was during this time that Southern Sudan began developing its infrastructure in ways not seen before or since. As the South grew stronger, the North began to worry, and in 1983, the government in Khartoum abrogated the peace agreement. Islamic Sharia law was imposed, Arabic was declared the official language in the south, and the north-south border was redrawn to include land where oil had been discovered in Southern Sudan. The abrogation of the peace agreement resulted in the formation of the Sudan People's Liberation Movement and its fighting wing, the Sudan People's Liberation Army. By 1987, the fighting had escalated, and the North began a new offensive that entailed widespread bombings and killings of civilians intended to depopulate the South and deprive the movement of its grassroots support. As fighting intensified and the SPLA's resistance increased, the Northern government became very unstable and underwent several regime changes. Each of the successive governments maintained policies of exploitation and Islamization. And in 1989, a coup took place and Omar Bashir, the current ruler of Sudan, seized power. Bashir's new government immediately declared all of Sudan an Islamic state. And with an increased commitment to radical Islam, the North intensified the war to the level of genocide and ethnic cleansing. Despite the terrible atrocities being perpetrated on the South, the SPLA continued gaining ground. In fact, the SPLA became so formidable that Bashir was forced to come to the negotiating table. And on January 9, 2005, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, or CPA, was signed by Dr. John Garang as the leader of the SPLM-SPLA and the government of Omar al-Bashir. 9 other countries, including the United States, were signatories to the agreement. The most important aspect of the CPA is the referendum vote on self-determination, which is scheduled to take place in January 2011 and provides 2 options for the South: unity with the rest of Sudan or secession as an independent state. This is what we have been fighting for all of these years: the opportunity to vote and decide our own future. So if the referendum vote, as stated in the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, is not allowed to take place, and if the results are not respected, we are afraid that the fragile truce between the northern and southern Sudan will disintegrate and war will begin again. Already, over 2 million southern Sudanese have been killed and 4 million have been displaced since Bashir's government began their ethnic cleansing campaign in 1989. We are trying to tell our story so that the whole world should know about it, and so that they can try to prevent such things from happening to any human beings in the future, let alone the people of Southern Sudan.